about today. And the subject today is really going to be about market context. And we're going to talk about context, content, and condition of the market. But before starting, I would really like to make sure that everybody understands that this presentation is for informational purposes only, and that we make no guarantees or warranties when it comes to the market profile, winner trader blue, or the ideas that we're going to share today in this presentation. So let's get started with the fact that most traders are continually striving to increase their ability to identify when and where to take trades. In other words, how to capitalize on potential trading opportunities using various types of software, features, functionality, information that's presented to us. For some of us, our tool of choice is really the market profile. And we use that along with different types of chart styles, ranging from bar charts to the Rinkos to candlesticks to point and figure. And we use these tools to understand and interpret the market's auction process. And that provides us with an edge in determining higher probability trade locations and times for entering the market, managing and adjusting positions, and exiting existing positions. One of the things that's key to gaining an edge using the software, though, is really to see beyond the obvious. In other words, to be able to see things that other traders don't see using their software. And when it comes to context and content and condition, the market profile is really one of the best decision support tools out there. And in using the term context, I want you to think of it in line with a fish. When you see a fish out of water, it flops around on the deck or the patio or the boat or wherever it is, and that fish looks clumsy. It looks like it's, how would you say, silly, I guess would be the best term to use. But you take that fish and you put it back in the water. In the context of the water, the results are graceful, powerful movements. And when it comes to markets, context provides meaning to the content, which is the details, and the condition, which is the state of the market. And the key to context is thinking contextually. And where the novice usually thinks concretely, expert traders, in our experience, reason contextually. For example, in most thinking, A leads to B. Whereas contextual thinking, the expert creates a web of possibilities in which A could lead to B under certain conditions, and it might lead to C under other conditions. Brett Steenbarger once made the statement, think of it this way: a 5% yield on a 10-year Treasury note is viewed from one perspective if the yield has fallen from 7%. And it's quite different if the yield has risen from a 3.5%. And there's a real difference in how we look at things based upon the context. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through some charts, and I'm just going to point out some different things. And these are just different views and perspectives of what Window Trader Blue is capable of doing. Let's just start with the first one. And the first one represents a number of profiles coupled with volume at price for the entire session. And I also have on this screen a cumulative profile. And what I wanted to point out is how a cumulative profile, when triggered by the identification of a bracket, can provide significant context to the trading of the daily, intraday sessions. The double arrows are pointing to the large, what we call a valley. And in this case, as you will note, the valley was formed by several highs and then a significant low in the upward move. In addition to that, the valley above where the single arrow is also held the market once it started to break out of that balance area. And what I've done here is I've broken this down into isolating the balance areas, also, which would be the bracket, which would be the combination of the two yellow squares. And I put those together in what's called a merged profile. Now, there's a philosophy in the markets that when you use a merged profile with the market profile, that new moves come out of the mode. In other words, the center or the most prominent point of the merged profile. And you can see that down here with this one. The new move started here and then it broke out. And when it broke out, it still left the valley right here. That valley became a reference point, the same way this valley became a reference point up here. And if you'll notice the slight indentation in this merged profile up here. This is the daily session right here. So if we're looking for a place where the market could potentially test again, in this case, a lot of educators will look at this as a significant point, as potentially a target on the downside and a place where the market will reverse the first time it's hit. It all depends on the different philosophies and how you trade. Next, I'm going to give you an illustration of a chart used by one of our subscribers, and he designed this himself. And if you'll notice, this is a 24-hour profile right here. I know it's hard to see, but there are lowercase a's right here throughout the profile, and then there are lowercase e's, and then there are uppercase alpha characters. And what this profile is showing, this is a 24-hour profile, is the lowercase a's represent the Asian market hours. The lowercase e's represent Europe, and then the larger uppercase alpha characters are the US market. Now he happens to use 4-hour candles, and within those 4-hour candles he has 4 1-hour volume profiles or volume histograms. And if you'll notice, each one of these is colored like a candlestick, so he can readily see not only the volume inside of that 4-hour candlestick, he can see the volume for each hour, but if you'll notice, these are little dollar signs right here. He can tell where, based on the way that he's configured the software, where the 100 lots or greater have traded. And what he's looking for there is to see where size came into the market. So he has the 24 hours here for the session. He has the 24 hours in a profile format. And he's also able to see inside of each 4-hour candle the 1-hour time frames. Now, here's another example of context, content, and condition. And in this case, what we have are volume profiles with TPO profiles overlaid on top of them. And then we've marked the value areas on each one of the sessions with the magenta colored box. And what we're looking for here is, first, what are the relationships between the different value areas? For example, here we have outside value. In this case, we have overlapping higher value. This one is definitely higher value, overlapping higher value, inside value. And by looking at the different relationships of those value areas, we can again begin to determine what is the actual content or content within the context or even the condition of the market. Where we had the outside value here, we were looking for a directional move. And we got it right here where we started getting a little bit of overlapping value. The next one, we got significantly higher value. And right here, we got back into overlapping value and then into inside value. So by looking at this, we can get an idea of how strong this trend potentially is. And one of the things that we look for is to see the degree of overlap or the spread between value areas to give us an idea of the conviction of the attempted direction of the move. Now in this illustration, what we've done is put three different what we call session objects on the screen. And these three different session objects are a day session configured with the profile, volume at price for the entire session, a histogram based on just the value but showing us where the volume is by the coloring. And in this case right here, we have the intraday candlesticks on 30-minute periods. We then put the previous week into what we call the volume profile histogram. And then everything beyond 1 week out, we put into an open, high, low, closed bar. And that open, high, low, closed bar also has on it a value area designated by the yellow box. On any of these open, high, low, closed bars, if we want to see the quality of the move, of the directional move, or if we want to see if there's excess on an extreme or where value built, all we have to do is right click on the open, high, low, closed bar, and by doing that we will have access to the profile that will show us where the areas of acceptance or rejection were
and really
that
the whole idea, the whole idea, I don't want to cut you off here, but the whole idea,
Matt, if there's any questions I'm going through this, I'd be happy to answer them too. Okay.
And I hope, and this is a perfect setup for the discussion.
Okay.
The context, content, and condition is something that, you know, as a again, professor and user of market profile as a tool, is it really depends on how you, the user, want to use that, and I think Terry is going to just continuing to go in on a real top-down overview of how multi-dimensional and powerful this tool is. So, and so I'm going to continue to have this move on here, Terry, and just wanted to again let you know that there's so many ways that you can look at this. Perfect.
Okay. And Matt, if you have any requests for me to do anything while I'm just showing the slides, we can do that, and then we'll bring up the live window trader at the end, and you can request, and we'll build different things for you. Okay. You're welcome. Okay. Now in this display, what we're showing here is not only the day sessions, but we're showing the night sessions, and the night sessions are configured with what we call a summary bar. And a summary bar shows us the open, it also shows us the settle, but it shows us the range, and it shows us the value and the point of control of that session. This allows us to start using a different time frame, the overnight session, as a potential lead-in to the day session. For example, if you'll notice down here, we had a distribution. It was starting to build horizontally here, and then the overnight session could not take that out, and the next day when the market opened, tested lower, could not take out the low of the overnight session, and then proceeded all day long to build to the high side, except for this one pullback right here. Another way that you can configure the software is that you could break out, for example, you could have the entire overnight session, but you could also have the last 2 hours of the overnight session and get more granular in your view, and be able to see, for example, in the last 2 hours, 8 15-minute candlesticks, or 8 histograms based on the volume. Anything that you would want to configure the software to give you the information based on the methodology that you trade. So that's just another way of looking at it. And here we have combined two different time frames, just like we did with the one where we had three different time frames for the Asian market, the European market, and also the US market. Now this is an interesting graphic from the standpoint that here we have again context and content, but it's showing us the condition of the market. Now this is a chart that a lot of traders will use, and they have this in their, so to speak, portfolio of different configurations. On the left we have volume at price for the entire session. Then we have a market profile. And the market profile is showing us where the most volume was for TPOs based on colors. The purple color is showing us, in this case, the highest 30%. Some people use 10%, some people use 20% or 15 or 18, whatever they want to use. In addition to that, what we have is the medium color, in other words, the mid-range color, which is the next 40% off of the top 30%, and that's colored in blue. And then the lowest 30% of volume is colored in the light gray or light blue color. But here's the interesting thing about this chart. This is a 30-minute candlestick with two 15-minute open, high, low, closed bars in it. Here's one of the things that's very interesting. If you will notice, what we have are 30-minute candlesticks, one time framing up. It never stops one time framing up till it gets to here. Now, higher time frames rule is what is guiding this chart right here. In this case, though, with the 30 minutes, we put the low in here. This closed lower than the open. The next bar opened here, closed higher, then went up, and then came back down. But as you'll notice, on the 15 minutes, the open, high, low, closed bars, we stopped one time framing up with this bar right here. But we did not stop the one time framing going up on the 30-minute. Now, maybe you don't take this trade here because this is closing on the low. But the next bar opened, attempted to go lower, and then went higher. Now we got the same type of pullback here where we stopped the time framing that started right here. 1, 2, 3, these three 15 minutes. Then it came down to here, and we are still within the 30-minute one time framing directional move. This was another place that several traders would have taken an entry right here. Possibly not on the bar that closed lower than the open, but on this one that opened could not even test lower because we know there's certainly stops down here, but then proceeded higher. This just gives you another idea of, here is my context, my profile. I'm looking down here. I have excess, what we call excess or a tail on the low, which gives us information. We can see right here that we went from 28,000 to 20,000 to 20,000, 12,000, 10,000, down to 1,900 contract. We see exhaustion on the low. We also can look at the shape of the profile that we left right here, excess or a tail, and you couple that with the 30-minute time frame and the 15s inside of it. This gives you context, content, and the condition of the market with an attempted direction higher. Here's another way to look at it. Now this was another chart created by one of our subscribers, and what he did was something very unique here. In fact, we actually put this one into our gallery for people to download, and we use the gallery that when you download one, all you have to do is it'll go set up as a template on your software, and then once it's set up as a template, you can modify it any way you want. Well, what this is really unique. This is 30-minute candles and there are two 15-minute TPO bars right here. In other words, this is I period, and the 30-minute period for I period was based on a candlestick. Inside of that, the I is showing what period it's in, and then behind it is the body of the candle. We don't need to see the wicks on these candles because we already have the information on the 30-minute showing the high and low and the direction of that candle. But if we just put the bodies behind the TPOs here, this is showing us the content inside of the context, and again, we have the condition of the market, which in this case is basically a balancing area. Now, the interesting thing about this one is if you'll notice the purple or the magenta TPOs, the alpha characters, these again are reflecting where the highest average trades occurred. This is a way to look at volume based on size, not just volume count or TPOs. And let me go to this one. Here's another way to look at it. Context, content, condition. Over on the left, we have volume at price. Then we have a volume histogram. And that volume histogram is colored like a candlestick, so we can tell where the market opened if I just look at that histogram, and I can tell where it attempted to go beyond the open, beyond the close, and then I can also see the close. In this case, that's an up candle. It closed up there where the green bar ends, right here. And then also this is a last price indicator right here. So I have my context right here. These are different ways that I can configure content. Now these are 1 hour bars right here. The first is a TPO. This is different than taking a profile and expanding it. And what we have here is red designating high volume, gold is medium volume, and white is low volume. I can see just looking at this column where the highest volume traded as far as a price level. This is a candlestick, obviously. There are people, for example, that are very much into different candlestick patterns, 3 candle highs, etc., and dojis. We're looking at, what is it, shooting stars or whatever those different patterns are. There are people that will look at a candlestick pattern, look at the way it displays, and then make their analysis just based on the candlesticks, and then do an independent analysis on the profile, an independent analysis on the volume, and then see if there's consensus between those 3 or 4 different ways of evaluating an extreme on the high or the low, if they're looking to fade a move. Here is an example of the volume on a intraday 60-minute display. And in this case, what we're looking at is, again, do I have exhaustion as I'm getting towards the end of an extreme, or do I have volume building at the end of an extreme? And one of the things that we have looked at over the years is that many times you will have a bubble of high volume at the extremes. And people will say, well, I can't take that because that's not exhaustion, so I certainly don't want to fade this move. One of the things that is helpful is to put another column on, so to speak, with TPOs. And in that case, what they do is they look at average size to see where the size is trading. And if the size is trading towards the extreme and there's high volume there, but the move is not going further to the south in this case, and you're at one of your key reference levels or key decision zones, in that case you can surmise potentially that it is information that a lot of that is traders looking to go long because they didn't get satisfaction for the quantity traded there of that move going further south. That's just another way of looking at it, but this information is only as valuable as your skills in interpreting it. And then here's an open high-low closed bar, and then obviously here we have, here we have the volume profiles, again, by color this time, showing us where the highest volume is, and then also medium volume and low volume. Okay, now, one of the things that, I'll just give you a little bit of background on myself. I've been trading for 20 years, and I got involved in software in 2001 because I had attempted to get companies whose software products that I had to do certain things for me. And the response was always, I was just one person and they couldn't make changes to their programs based on the request of one person. Getting involved in software, my ultimate goal was to be able to have software that I could configure any way I wanted to based on my preferences and my style of trading. And based on the talents of my partner and being able to take the concepts that I talked about and translate those into displays on the screen, we ended up, we think, with probably one of the most versatile and powerful market profile-based trading software applications out there. And that's not to say anybody else doesn't have good programs. They do. And it comes down to the trader deciding what works for him or her. The key to it, though, is we believe the flexibility. For example, if I want to change any of these percentages, I can do it. If I want to change any of the colors, I can do it. If I want to move these histograms over to the left, I can do it. If I want to move the profile to the right, I can do it. If I want 5 profiles up on the screen at the same time, I can have them up there. And these are the things that really become important to us as users. Here's one other example. This is an example now of 3 different profiles on the screen at the same time. As I say, if I want 10 of them, I can have 10 of them. But this one, the underlying data set is based upon TPO volume, which is the longest row of TPOs closest to the center of the range. This one, I configured it for the point of control to be based on the highest number of contracts traded at price for the session. And in that case, it's right here. It's not the same as the point of control based on TPOs. This third profile, interestingly enough, I put the point of control based on average trade size. In other words, where did the largest size trade in that entire session? And what we have is the largest size traded right here. So I have 3 different views which allow me to make a more informed decision. I also have a volume profile right here, and I have the cumulative volume at price right here. These are just some of the things that we believe are important to the trader to be able to determine what fits their methodology, their style, etc. On a personal basis, I certainly enjoyed interacting with Matt and learning what he wanted to do and how he wanted to construct the charts to support his teaching and working with his students and clients. And one of the things that we're in the process of doing right now is Matt is thinking about the templates, or what we would call the models that he wants, and we're going to put those in the gallery so any of his students could download and have charts the way that he uses them, and which makes it tremendously valuable that the educator and the student can talk and be looking at the
Yeah,
same thing without
and Terry, you
sharing
and
a
I have talked
screen.
about this for a long time,
And
but
anyway,
you know,
that's
one of
one
the
of the
things that I
directions
get
that
asked all the time
we're
by
excited
students,
about
by
Mac
non-students, is, "Hey,
providing for us
I
is
want
the
to
templates that
replicate
he uses.
your templates." I've been able to do that somewhat with Ninja. I've been able to do it over time with Thinkorswim. Actually, some of my students have helped me with you know, some of the programming, because it's not sometimes as easy as it can be. I am not a programmer. I don't want to be a programmer. I just want to trade. I want to look at the markets the way that I want to look at them. And I think the one thing that I get every time I talk to Terry is, you know, even in this 30-minute presentation today, Terry, I see things again where I'm like, all right, that would be pretty cool to have that as maybe a secondary, you know, or tertiary way of looking at things. So the whole point of making this introduction today is really twofold: to allow people to understand that the market profile is nothing more than a tool. There are no absolutes, and I always say this to you know, partners of mine, that there are no absolutes in the trading game. The only thing that you can control is where you put bids and offers, and then hopefully stops and your risk. Outside of that, defining actual profits, I think, is much more difficult than when people say, well, if you're looking for X, how come you're not looking at 2X for profits? Well, it's just not that. You know, trading is not a linear game, I still contend. And my goal as a trader is to take a big bite out of the move every day or every week or every month. However, again, the context, content, and conditions that I lay out as a trader should be determined by me, and not determined by reacting always to the market. So that's really what this was an introduction for our partners today, was hopefully to show that, and again, understand that this is probably the greatest game on earth, in my opinion, and I love playing games, and trading to me is a great game. And if you can define your risk and your moves in that game, then you will have opportunity to be successful. And that's what we try to, again, profess and pass on to our partners in the marketplace of education and working with our partners. There is no, you know, Terry, I'm sure you'll agree with me that there are no absolutes when it comes to this business. The only absolute you have is, you know, protecting your capital and you know, trying to make the next move on the board in this game of trading. Right. And
No, I totally agree.
you know,
I mean, I think back to when
yeah,
I
and you know
started.
what's interesting is
My whole
I
search
tell
was
people
to
this
find
straight
the
out,
person that
that
had the
doesn't
Holy
exist.
Grail,
There
and if
is,
I
you know,
paid them
and if
enough
that
money, they
person
would
has
share it with me. And
as far as,
it
you know,
took
some
me
indicator or
a while to
some
figure that one
special
out.
piece of software that's going to, you know, plug and play, they're not going to share it with you. I mean, I wouldn't. If I had an absolute way of making money, you know, every single trade I took, I sure wouldn't share that. I'd be on my knees and thanking whoever you want to thank to, you know that for some reason that came into my hands. But you know, on a more serious basis, is all you can do is kind of, you know, use tools like this that Terry and his team have created, because there was a demand in his trading day, and that's what's cool about it. Is that what this was really created by traders, for traders, and in many instances, I see a lot of tools that are created by programmers that aren't traders, or you know, and they just don't function the way that I would like to look at them as a trader. So again, thank you, Terry, for creating this tool, because it is a fantastic tool to use. A tool, market profile being that tool, a tool to use a tool, and you know, and this is how great carpenters are created. They have tools and they find things that they use from other traders, and this is just another way, again, for us to share what is out there. And the game is always evolving, with high frequency trading or not, with machines, algorithms, to the individual trader. I still believe that the individual trader has an opportunity to you know, make money in markets. So that's why I do what I do, and I like to share that. But I also like to disclaim that there is no absolute, and I have losing trades as much as the next guy, and I just try to again, take bigger chunks out of the winning end, taking whether it's a quarter to half of the points available to me in a week, and then go from there. Break it down from there and try to find the spots where I have, much like Terry talked about, those peaks and valleys that everybody's aware of, that studies market profile. Everybody can tell you where tails are, and they can tell you where point of control is. But that doesn't mean, none of that means anything at the end of the day. It all depends on where do you want to take the trade, what is your time frame you're going to trade it, how are you going to define the risk, and how are you going to stay in the trade when it's going your way, how are you going to exit the trade when it gets to the point where you said you'd exit. And that's what it really comes down to at the end of the day. But these tools are great tools in recognizing areas where I want to deploy my capital and take a risk and taking that opportunity that's out there. So Terry, is Eric on? Did he ever make it on?
He didn't make it on. One of the things always
Right.
adapting to the software's ability to configure things, and that's what prompted me to go on the search, 12, 13 years ago, and end up creating this. Um, the there is on our website, if people are interested, a market profile software checklist. And that's not
And that's at
promoting window trader,
windowtrader.com that you see right here on
but
the bottom.
I would just
So you
share
go
that
right to
with you that,
the website there.
for people that are
And,
looking
and,
for
and I think,
market profile
what that
software, they might find that
suggests,
very helpful.
Terry,
It's
if I
under
may,
the
is
market
that
profile section on our website. And let me
that's
see
great.
here.
And I think that's important.
There it is right there. And then you would just
The
go to the
bottom
market
line here
profile
is this is a
section,
fantastic
and
tool.
under
Terry, for
software,
disclaimer,
there's a
I'm not
place they
paid
can
by you.
download
I
that,
have no
if that helps,
relationship with
Matt.
you on a
So
monetary basis. So, I say that as a consumer of your product. And, you and I have been talking again for months. And I can tell people here that there's a number of my partners and students who have come to Terry after spending a week with me or a day with me or multiple days with me. They love this tool. They see how I utilize it, and they do then want to employ some of the same things. And many, and probably most of my partners end up using it a little bit differently than I do, and that's what's cool. And that's where we, share these things together. And again, I think everybody has to fit, again, that context, conditions, into their own trading. And that is the nuance that comes with, I see you've got a quote here from Jim Dalton, and, listen, Jim Dalton is a fantastic trainer of many traders. I've worked with him over the years in a number of firms that I worked with in the past. So Jim is using a tool here, and that we're talking about. So, take a look at it. Go to Terry's site. We're going to be doing some more specifics as it relates to Market Profile Trading Academy and the tools I use within Window Trader. This was just an entree, and I think, Terry, if you're open to it, I'd like to do, maybe every other month type thing where you and Eric can come in and really, we can talk about situations like I've presented to both you and Eric and said, hey, could you do this? Because this, that I've asked you, and I hope just as you do, that some of the things that I ask you as a trader that you've been able to do for me, I know you do for other people. So you have some flexibility in this product to listen to your customers, and you really do, and that's a great attribute that you guys have been able to share.
well, one of the things that you just brought up is a great statement, Matt, and that is that it would be fun to have just different sessions with you,
Right.
and I would just, Eric would be on here with us also. But Eric comes from the perspective of the developer, tremendously creative, tremendously talented at what he does. And what would be fun is
Yeah,
for
I'd love to do
you to
that.
say,
That would
or
be a
some
great
of your partners or students,
next session
whoever,
or two. That would be
is to
fantastic.
say, can you build a chart like this? And let us do it from scratch right there on the screen. And
Yep.
yeah,
That'd
and
be
you
fantastic.
decide
I
the time
definitely will do
frame,
that
you
with you.
decide what you
Definitely will
want to
do that.
look at,
Okay.
and let's just build it for you from scratch so everybody can see the process of doing it.
Well,
So,
yep. Well, you're
okay.
welcome. You're most welcome, and we look forward
Well,
to
I thank you very much
seeing
for
you again here.
inviting
Happy
us
Thanksgiving to
to do this
everybody,
presentation.
and
We certainly appreciate
again,
it.
thanks Terry
Obviously,
and
we
Eric
like
for
to
stepping in
show
today,
our product.
and look
So,
for more
thank
of
you.
these informational webinars on Terry's great product, because I'm a big believer in getting comfortable and getting into your sweet spots as a trader. Sometimes, again, I think we overcomplicate things, and the profile itself is a great tool, but this really gets you on an even, in my opinion, even a simpler, more straightforward basis by using this tool. Each trader, I think, can come to an area that is much more containerized. So thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving to all, and we'll see you soon.